If somebody had told me when I first got into business that success leaves clues, others have done this before you and you can learn from them, and your mindset will determine your success or failure, I would have said, tell me everything you know because I want to be successful. Unfortunately, I wasn't that mature, I wasn't that wise, and I made some mistakes along the way. In this episode, I'm going to share with you the 7 key mindsets that I learned along the way that made all the difference. Let's get into it. Welcome, my friends. My name is Blaine. I am your host for this and every single episode of the always sponsor-free Real Value podcast. Welcome to episode 2 of season 7. I sincerely hope that you're getting some value from the show. I mean, after all, it's called the Real Value podcast, and our mission is to create and deliver some kind of value for you with every show. Starting off the new year talking about mindset, and well, why not? I mean, after all, if you're in any of the real estate related industries like appraisal or sales or lending, title, inspections, and so on, you probably have a little more time on your hands today than you did this same time last year. There are a variety of things I believe you should be doing with the time, and we've been talking about those things in the last few episodes. Now, one of those things is getting your thinking on track and getting your mindset primed for success. Things won't always be this slow in this market. You have to be ready. There are 2 seasons always we talk about, harvest time and seed planting time. And so many in the real estate related industries have been in harvest mode for 10 plus years without doing maybe the seed planting work they should have been doing. Now is seed planting time so that we have a harvest later on. But in today's episode, let's talk about the 7 mindsets that I think you need to adopt in order to thrive when everyone else is frantically running around because of market changes and things outside of their control. I mean, we're always talking to our coaching students about controlling the controllables. It's control the things you can control. Don't spend a lot of time on things you can't control. Leave the other stuff alone. One of the things that you can control always is your mindset and how you think. So let's get after it. The first mindset that I recommend kind of sitting with and becoming part of your DNA is to see yourself as the CEO of You Incorporated, one of the most important self-image characteristics and traits from which all of the others flow is the mindset and attitude of, well, let's call it self-employment, and I'll also say radical responsibility. When you take responsibility for everything, the good, the bad, and the other, you have the opportunity to make changes in your life. This is what CEOs are supposed to do, is take responsibility for everything. And this it becomes essentially critical, or especially critical, if you work for somebody else and you're not actually self-employed, because the attitude of being absolutely 100% responsible for and in charge of your destiny is a vital distinction between consistent high achievers and those who don't achieve or perform at high levels at all. When you always see yourself as the CEO of You Incorporated, essentially, you start to take responsibility for everything that goes on in your world, and you take advantage of the opportunities that let's call it the employee mindset in you, may not have identified previously. You start to see different things. The CEO sees different things than typically the employee does. The job of the CEO is to have a vision for the company, to live and breathe the core values and guiding principles, and to inspire others to do the same to make the company profitable. As CEO of You Incorporated, you must have clearly defined core values, guiding principles. I recommend a personal mission statement for yourself, a vision of where you're going, and what profitability looks like for you as a person. Now, if we tie this to the 5 forms of wealth that we've taught on before, we coach on: time wealth, financial wealth, health wealth, social wealth, and spiritual wealth. Well, it becomes easier to think of profitability in greater terms than maybe just what a P&L, a profit and loss statement, might track and measure. How profitable are you in the time wealth category? How profitable are you in the health wealth category? How about your relationships, your social wealth categories, and of course your spiritual wealth categories? How profitable are you? What would your P&L, your hypothetical profit and loss statement in all those different categories, what would it look like? The way you approach your work, your business, your clients, your staff, your coworkers, and your colleagues should be always from the position of Chief Executive Officer in charge of everything. It doesn't mean you have to do everything. No, we like to delegate. But the CEO has to take responsibility for everything that goes on, because when you take responsibility for everything that goes on, you take responsibility and you keep responsibility for making changes. You're not just an appraiser or an agent or a loan officer. You are in the process of developing one of the most successful brands and versions of you that the world has ever seen. So the attitude of being in charge of your own destiny is the critical distinction, I'll say, between success and, let's say, mediocrity. Maybe not success and failure, but success and mediocrity, and high achievement and outright failure. There's differences and distinctions. I heard a statement one time from, I think, Ben Kinney. He probably got it from somebody else, but sometimes you're losing so slowly you actually think you're winning. So there is a distinction between being successful and being mediocre. And quite often the people who are just being mediocre, being average, actually think they're winning, when in fact they might not be. Now, the other distinction that comes from having this CEO mindset is that you take responsibility for always looking for ways to add value to your company and for your clients. Gosh, how many times do we talk about this on this podcast and in coaching? I mean, the podcast is called the Real Value Podcast. Everything about what we do is talking about how do we add value above and beyond the cost of our product and our service? How can we level up our clients? How can we make them better tomorrow than they are today? The CEO's job is to oversee all areas of the company and is ultimately responsible for the health of the company and the people within it. And this means taking responsibility regardless of position, regardless of title, regardless of power, authority, or outlook, and always looking for ways to add value. I mean, after all, one of the CEO's jobs is to increase the value of the stock of the organization. If you think in terms of being CEO of You Incorporated and your stock was worth something on the market, how would you be increasing the value of that stock? My friends, nobody is coming to save you as the CEO of You Inc. in all the categories we mentioned a minute ago. As the CEO, it is up to you to have a vision and a plan for the increase or the decrease in the metrics in any of those areas. If you're unhappy, for example, with the direction of any one of those areas, well, who's it up to? It's up to the CEO to develop a plan for increase. If you were an employee, conversely, instead of the CEO, if you were an employee at You Incorporated instead of the CEO, how would you rate you as a boss? So you're an employee and you're the CEO. As the employee, how would you rate you as the boss, as a leader, as a good steward of the gifts and talents that you've been given? If it's not where you want it to be, you have the power to make it change. After all, you're the CEO of You Incorporated. That's the first vital mindset. The second vital mindset of success, in my opinion, now that you become CEO of You Incorporated, is seeing and believing yourself to be a value consultant. Now, I'm speaking primarily to my appraiser brethren and sisterin in this one, but this mindset expands across all boundaries. All guardrails can be broken down, because in every business, no matter what you're doing, you should be selling value. And this one requires a little bit of a mindset shift in most cases, from seeing yourself just as an appraiser or just as a real estate salesperson or just as a loan originator to somebody who solves the biggest challenges and problems for a variety of clients. Heck, I would say if you're in IT or if you are doing something else in some other industry, always thinking in terms of being the CEO of You, and if you were the CEO of You Incorporated, how could you add value? You'd become a value consultant, and you seek to solve the biggest problems in your office, in your business, and in that of your clients and customers. When you make the mindset shift from, say, being an appraiser to being a value consultant for your clients, you become what I call a market-winning problem solver. Because the word value has multiple meanings. The definition of value that I'm using when I call myself a value consultant is the broader definition of value that refers to, say, the importance, the worth, and the usefulness, the utility that something has for somebody else. When I suggest that you adopt the mindset of a valued and valuable value consultant, I'm suggesting that you shift your mind from thinking about the technical work that you might do each day to earn a living, to thinking about how you can add value to the whole process for everybody involved with you. Again, How do you level up? How do you level up those around you? How do you make the people around you and the people who cross your path more valuable for having crossed your path? Value consultants see themselves as problem solvers in the larger sense of the term. And they aren't merely thinking about getting paid for one transaction. Value consultants are relationship focused, not transaction focused. A value consultant is always looking at the big picture and thinking long term. Each client and each problem is pregnant with possibilities for future business, better business, networking opportunities, leveling up your clients and customers, for helping them be better and experience bigger paydays if you have eyes and congruent behavior to create those opportunities. Relationship versus transaction. I mean, the typical appraiser, for those appraisers who are part of our coaching program or those who listen to us on this podcast each week, the typical real estate appraiser looks at the fee paid to them, typically, and the value problem to be solved in that specific transaction. I mean, that is the first step of the appraisal process, to find the problem. That means that the relationship is transactional. What is the fee I'm going to earn on this? How much is it going to take me? And what's the end result? An appraisal sent off, boom, commoditization happens. That relationship is transactional and is only as valuable as the last transaction. Not for a value consultant. A value consultant sees themselves as an advisor, a mentor, a trusted professional, and a valued friend. They differentiate themselves by being, say, more concerned with helping their client in the long run than with being just transactional and completing one appraisal or one transaction and then waiting for the next. That's the second mindset. The third mindset of success is that of being a strategic thinker. The top professionals in every category, my friends, are strategic thinkers and doers. What does this mean? It means that they are deliberate about almost everything that they do. Strategic thinkers, they set clear goals for what they want to be, do, and have, and then they work those goals backwards into yearly, monthly, weekly, and then eventually daily activities and habits that can be tracked and measured for progress. We talk about this all the time on this podcast about the habits that need to be developed, who you need to become when you set a goal sets the direction, but the goal isn't the thing. It's the who you would need to become to achieve that goal. What habits need to be either broken or added to be on the path toward that goal. The average service professional, friends, there's a big shift in the market from service professional to knowledge professional. We've been talking about this. But the average service professional throws him or herself into the market asking for work, and they consume a lot of time and energy doing, let's call it busy work, because they aren't strategic about what they want. If they were strategic, they would look at everything they did. They would recognize, we're going to talk about this as one of the mindsets, how valuable time is. And then they would start to recognize areas that they can become more efficient in, what their dollars per hour are, and how they can leverage themselves and their time into the highest dollar per hour activities. So appraisers, again, for example, they know they want appraisal work, but that's typically all they know. They set off into the world with that as their only goal and that as their only plan. And well, as you well know, that's not really a plan. If that's your only plan, then the only thing you have to track and measure is if you were busy doing something that day or not. If you were busy, you might look back and go, yeah, I was super busy, so I must be heading towards success. My friends, being busy is not a good metric of success. There are lots of busy people in the world not accomplishing much of anything, not being, doing, or having anything but getting worn out, being busy. We know all kinds of people. We see them all around us. Some of you might be these people. You might also know these people, where you go, gosh, they're really busy, but I don't necessarily see them accomplishing much of anything at all. Not the strategic thinker. This mindset is super important. The strategic thinker thinks ahead about what they want to achieve, what things will look like, how things will grow, and most importantly, how they will know when they've arrived or when they've achieved it so that they can set new plans and activities. Keeping in mind, of course, that's typically, people don't get to the end of a goal or an achievement before they set new ones. As they can see it coming closer and closer and they're almost there, they're pushing that out further. They're expanding their mindset, they're expanding their goals, and they're creating new achievements. The strategic thinker knows what they're going to earn in a given period, how much they're going to spend to do it, how much they'll save for the future, how much they will give away in the direction they are most inspired to do so. That's called strategic thinking. And as a professional value consultant and CEO of You Incorporated with a clear blueprint for success, you're much more relaxed and at peace than, say, the real estate appraiser, the realtor, the loan originator, who is too busy to plan for their own success. How many of these have we known over the last 10 years? I've been coaching appraisers now for a decade, and we have seen what has happened. So many in harvest mode when they should have been also in seed planting mode. So many of them too head down to see what was coming. Some of them so busy that they had no time to be strategic and to plan for the time that they're in right now, which is a big slowdown. When you've taken the vital time to plan out your path and chart your course, you have a track to run on, and then you know when you're getting off track. This is super, super important. One of the critical aspects of being a strategic thinker is that when you have a plan and then you have a roadmap, small setbacks, roadblocks, and externalities will have little effect on your path because you are simply following the plan. It's the same thing if you have a map and you're driving from New York to California. You might get off a little bit, but you know when you're getting off of the plan because you have the map in front of you. You have to follow your plan, and you know when you're getting off track. If you must pivot or alter the plan, it is a quick ramp back up and continue on the path to get back on the plan. Without strategic thinking, setbacks, roadblocks, externalities, things going on outside of you, the weather, the market, or whatever, they're going to throw all kinds of monkey wrenches onto your path. And getting off course when you have no plan means you could end up in the extreme opposite direction of where you thought you wanted to be. You know, I don't know if you know this, but I read this one time. If an airplane leaves LAX, Los Angeles Airport, flying direct to Rome, Italy, and is flying in a direct and straight line from LAX to Rome, it'll take plus or minus 12 hours depending on headwinds and whatnot, and you will land in Rome as planned. However, if the nose of the airplane is pointed a mere 1 degree off course to the south, after 12 hours the plane will land somewhere in Africa. Massive, massive difference. Friends, you must be strategic with your thinking and your mindset if you want to land where you plan to land. If you don't know where you want to land, start there first. That's the third mindset. Fourth mindset of success is having what I'll call a results-only mindset. Results are the only thing that matters, friends. Intention doesn't. Another way that I tend to think of this mindset is that of a transformation mindset. What I mean by that is that we see our mission in life and in business as getting results or some kind of transformation for those that we work with. People who are results-oriented, well, they don't fear rejection. Why? Because they're just trying to get results. They don't fear dealing with people. They don't fear telling the truth if they think it will lead to better results. And they don't fear doing things outside of their comfort zone because they know that fear limits results almost more than anything else. Fear has killed more dreams than anything else. And fear is what keeps more people, a lot of people from realizing their true potential and their wildest dreams. When you focus on the results, when you become extremely results oriented, you realize that the only thing that matters is that transformation, is getting results and focusing on the transformation for your clients and the customers. And it's one of the best things and best ways to do this, especially when you start thinking like a CEO of You Incorporated and you become a value consultant. You start to think relationally instead of transactionally, and you start to realize that you can help your clients get some kind of transformation. You can help your clients get results. That's your job. Even as an appraiser, you're not just delivering an appraisal. That's how an industry becomes commoditized. We could talk about this all day long, but there's no need because it's already happened. The only way to shift this, to become the most trusted, value-added authority and advisor in your market, is to think in terms of results, and not the results for you necessarily, but getting results for your client. What is the result that your client is trying to achieve? That's the fourth mindset. The fifth mindset, my friends, of success is that of abundance. I mean, we couldn't talk about mindsets without talking about the two opposite mindsets from each other, the lack mindset and the abundance mindset. I'm sure you've heard this one before. And it's because it's nearly impossible to be successful at anything with a lack mentality. An abundance mindset, conversely, on the other end of the spectrum, is one that believes there's always enough to go around. There is more than enough for everybody. There's if you cut up the pie and you take pieces of pie, it's not taking it out of somebody else's mouth. We'll just make more pies. So we don't see others in our industry as competition because we can collaborate. There's enough for everybody. It doesn't mean not to go after business in your market or rest while everybody else is trying to get the business. It simply means not to worry or fear losing out to, say, a competitor, because there's always enough for everybody, especially as you begin to separate yourself from the pack by being, as the great Jay Abraham, one of the greatest marketers in history, calls, the preeminent provider of value consulting services in your market. The preeminent provider of those services. But you've got to have an abundance mentality. That is the belief that there is enough. You might not always see it, but that's just because you don't believe it yet, and we're going to talk about that. Having an abundance mentality kind of tunes your mind and your body into the magnetic impulses and the frequency of the thing you believe exists in abundance. But you have to believe it. Whatever comes to you is not taking away from somebody else. That's an abundance mentality. A lack mentality says if it has to come to me, it's got to be taken from somebody else. A lack mindset is one that focuses on the scarcity or the lack of something or resource. And when you think in terms of scarcity, you believe there isn't enough to go around. And what does that do? Well, it tunes your mind and your body into the frequency of lack, of scarcity, of not enough. And what happens when we believe that is your brain will do everything in its power to find evidence to back up what you believe. That's what its job is. Its job is to keep us alive, to burn as few calories as possible so we can survive, to create heuristics or patterns, shortcuts, to make sure that we're doing things efficiently. But then its next job is to find evidence to support our beliefs. So whatever we believe, we see all around us. And then it constantly confirms for us. Oh yeah, that's what I believe. There it is. Okay. It reconfirms for us what we believe. And your brain will do everything in its power to confirm or find evidence of scarcity and lack all around you so that you can be right. We hate to be wrong. So you will see evidence all around you that, for example, in the appraisal industry, fees are going down. AMCs are running the business for us. There's too much competition in your market, and your profits are being eaten up by technology fees and software costs and gas prices and the cost of bread and everything else that you can find around you that gives you evidence to prove the false reality that there is not enough. Friends, there is enough. There is enough. And the interesting thing is that when you make the mindset shift from scarcity to abundance, from lack to more than enough, magic happens. Your brain begins to see the evidence of abundance all around you. You just have to tune into that frequency. There's a great author. He's passed away now many years ago, sadly, Dr. Wayne Dyer, author of many books, but he has a great book out there titled, You'll See It When You Believe It. You see, almost everyone out there has heard or said the phrase maybe, I'll believe it when I see it. In the appraisal industry specifically, appraisers are researchers and they tend to skew toward the skeptic. They are skeptical until they see something. So they say, well, I'll believe it when I see it. As if seeing something with our own eyes first is the only way something could possibly exist. If I haven't seen it, it doesn't exist. No. What Dr. Dyer posited is that since the reticular activating system in our brains, that's the little part of our brains that when we believe in something, we know it exists, we start to see it all around. When you buy a blue car, you drive off the car lot, your reticular activating system proves to you that there are lots of blue cars. Then all of a sudden you see blue cars all over the road. Did the cars just magically appear once you bought one? No. You just weren't tuned into the frequency of blue cars before you bought one. And so Dr. Dyer posited in his book, You'll See It When You Believe It, that since the reticular activating systems in our brain often has us seeing certain things in abundance while we see other things not so much, that much of this is based on our beliefs about the world. And until we change that mindset, we won't be able to experience some of the things we might say we want if we don't believe deep down that it's even possible. And some of you today don't believe it's possible. That's why we're talking about this mindset. I coach people every single week, my friends, who write out all the things they want to do, be, and have in the next, say, 1, 3, and 10 years. What I often find when we start digging deep into their goals and their aspirations is that sometimes they have deep-seated beliefs that contradict some of the goals and aspirations. That's right. They write them down because they think it's going to look good on paper. They write them down because they think I'm going to be impressed by them, but then we dig into them and we don't let them off the hook. On the surface, they say what they want to be, do, or have this thing, but deep inside, they have a belief that tells them that maybe they're not good enough. They're not worthy. They're stupid. There's not enough for everybody. There's not enough to go around. Money is dirty. Money is evil. I'm not deserving of more. And one of the worst ones that I encounter, having more money makes me a bad person. If you don't believe it's possible, friends, you will find it impossible to experience it in your reality. In essence, you'll experience abundance when you believe it first. When you believe fully and you understand that there is enough to go around, even if everything around you is screaming that maybe there's not enough. That's the fifth mindset. The sixth vital mindset of success, we talked about it earlier. This one is huge. Friends, take this one very, very seriously. Time is your most valuable currency and resource. This is the mindset of success that says time is one of our most valuable currencies and resources. When you begin to recognize that time is our most valuable currency, the decisions you make from very small to the big ones, well, they start to change. Time is one of the forms of wealth we've all been granted, and how we use it determines what comes to us and what we experience. When you fail to recognize, on the opposite side of the spectrum, when you fail to recognize that time is a valuable currency and a resource, you fail to make better decisions. You don't care. You don't recognize. Time feels linear to you. There's the past, there's the future. I got all the time in the world. And you don't care how you spend it or invest it. Time is fleeting, friends. One of the things that makes time so valuable, and one of the most valuable currencies and resources, is the same thing that, say, makes gold valuable. For example, scarcity. When a resource is scarce, meaning it's in short supply, it tends to increase in value. And while we tend to believe we have all the time in the world, the reality is that time is a non-renewable resource, meaning once it's been spent, however it's been spent, it can never be recovered. You cannot renew or get back the minutes you spent listening to this podcast. The best you can do is take the return on the investment from the things you learn here and do something great with it. But we all know there are times we are wasting or giving away our time. Now, the other aspect, of time that makes it so valuable is that we never know when our last moment will be. Time is non-renewable, and we never know. Our last moment is unknown. If you check your bank account today, you can see how much money is in your bank account, and you can get a sense of when the last dollar will run out, based on a few simple math calculations relative to your spending habits. So if you earn no more dollars, you know how much your budget is, you know how much you spend on bread and peanut butter and bologna, you know when you're going to hit your last dollar. That is unknown. When it comes to time, there is no bank account to look to. We may think we have another 10, 25, or 50 years left. But my friends, none of those years are guaranteed. We likely all know someone for whom we believed had another day, only to be crushed by the news that they're gone. Time is fleeting. Time moves fast. Time is non-renewable. And we never know when the last moment will be. This is not intended to be a depressing podcast. This is about mindset. But until you recognize that time is your most valuable resource and currency, you may never wake up to the reality that time is scarce, it's fleeting, it's non-renewable, and also it's one of the most important mindsets to adopt for a better today and a better tomorrow. What so many fail to realize, huge irony, when it comes to time, is that we are always trading our valuable time. We could also call time our life energy. We're trading our valuable life energy for something else. What do we trade it for? Usually money. Most people spend a large portion of their valuable life energy working for what? Working for income. Whether it's for you, for yourself, CEO of You Incorporated, or somebody else. Now, why do we work for income? Because income for most people, not only does it equate to living your life, but it equates to freedom and independence somewhere down the road. That's what most people are working for. They work for income so that they can live and move freely in society and experience the things that we wish to experience in life, to be, do, and have. We have a saying in our coaching program, do more, be more, live more, give more. We want to be, do, and have more tomorrow than we do today. The best way to do that is to be giving to others, in my opinion. We spend our valuable time and life energy, our most valuable resource and currency, usually working to earn income so that we can experience life. And another way to think about this trade-off is to realize that we trade our most valuable resource and currency for money. We trade our time for money, only to use that money to buy back our time with our experiences. That's right. We spend our time, we earn our money, we take our money to buy back our time. We use our money to go out to eat. We use our money to take vacations, to pay for our hobbies, to spend time with family, to invest in our futures, which we hope will be better than our past. Nobody thinks, I'm really hoping to get to retirement age and be worse off than before. So I'm going to spend all of my time and life energy earning income only to get to the end and go, crap, this isn't what I hoped for. No, we work to earn income, to buy back our time, hopefully at some later date. I don't agree with this methodology, but that's what most people do. That's why I called it an irony. We are trading our time today to buy it back at some later date. Start to grasp this mindset that time is our most valuable currency and our resource. Now, I will also say, we talked about health wealth being one of the 5 forms of wealth, just as time wealth is. Since we're talking about time and how we trade our time for income only to use that income to buy back our time in some other form or fashion, recognize too that we do that with our health. It is one of the great ironies. Most people, this is a saying, and I think it was from the Dalai Lama, and I will be paraphrasing, that most people invest or spend the vast majority of their health trying to accumulate wealth, only to then spend all of their wealth trying to recuperate or recover their health. That's one of the ironies of life. We have to make sure we take care of time, family, faith, friends, relationships, all those around us. Health is super, super important. Health span is more important than lifespan, and time is tied to that. We're trading our time for income to buy back our time, and quite often we trade our health for income, only to use our income to buy back our health. Take care of your health today. Time is your most valuable currency and resource. You begin to make different decisions about it, and then things start to change. My encouragement to you, my friends, is start making better decisions. How you invest your time. Studies have shown, as of this period of this point in time with cell phones and computers and tablets, the average person wastes somewhere around 1,300 hours every year scrolling social media. Just do the math, that's about 25 hours per week, or an average of 3.5 hours per day. That's a lot of time. If you knew that tomorrow might be your last day on earth, how would you spend it? If you knew that one of your dear family members only had a day left, would you encourage them to spend 3.5 hours on social media? Probably not. How would you spend the time? Would you scroll Facebook or Instagram for 3 or 4 hours? Most likely not. Friends, use your time wisely. That's the 6th mindset. The 7th mindset of success is one that was expressed, in my opinion, the most effectively by the great author Stephen Covey, another great author who has since left this world, passed away many years ago. He wrote a groundbreaking leadership book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in it, Dr. Covey talks about one particular mindset of highly effective and successful people, and he referred to it as sharpening the saw. I forget the chapter, but the chapter is called Sharpening the Saw, or Sharpen the Saw. And he essentially said, we must never become too busy sawing to take time to sharpen the saw. The saw, of course, in this metaphor is, of course, you. We must always seek continuous improvement. The Japanese call this kaizen, continuous improvement for the good. We've got to always seek continuous improvement, growth, and renewal, both personally and professionally. To be successful, to be truly successful, and we haven't defined success. I personally like One of the favorite definitions that I heard years ago is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal, which I believe is Earl Nightingale. The progressive realization of a worthy ideal or goal. And to be truly successful, in my opinion, you have to be happy and healthy. We're not defining success in terms of finances. We're not defining success in terms of just one number. It's the progressive realization, always moving towards something, of a worthy goal or ideal. And friends, that should be, health and happiness should be part of that. You have to have time to enjoy life. And that entails spending time with, of course, loved ones, friends, family, and with yourself, sometimes in silence. It means taking some time to spend in nature or eating healthy foods that give you energy and vitality and more life. It means making meaningful connections with other human beings. It means feeding your mind with good books, just like you would feed your body with good food. Feeding your mind with podcasts like this one and the thousands of other awesome podcasts and YouTube channels that are out there. It means feeding your soul with healthy conversations, being around good people, and of course, programs like this one. It means spending time nourishing your spirit through meditation, through music, through art, prayer, travel, and giving while in service to others. We can't possibly talk about the first 6 mindsets without wrapping them all up with this all-encompassing mindset of considering the whole you in the process. Sharpen your saw, my friends. If you don't take time to regularly renew, reinvigorate, refresh, and revitalize yourself in all of the areas that we all exist in, eventually things begin to break down. Your personal life suffers, your mental health and well-being suffers, your relationships suffer, your business suffers, and your physical being suffers. And eventually what happens? Well, you hit rock bottom. Sharpening the saw means taking required time, not optional time, required time. It gets time blocked into your calendar. This is not optional. This is required. That's what successful people do. You sharpen the saw with required time, not optional time, so that you can continue to use it to earn a living and live a prosperous life. Those, my friends, are the 7 mindsets of success, and I recommend listening to this one over and over and over. Take good notes. As you listen, ask yourself where you sit on the mindset spectrum. How many of these 7 mindsets do we share? Do any of these resonate with you? And if so, what would it take for you to begin to change your current mindset and replace it with a more empowering one? Remember, how we think and what we believe affects what we see and experience. You will see it when you believe it. We all have the power to create life and lifestyle, the lifestyle of our choosing, but only with the proper mindsets. Adopt some form of these 7 to do more, be more, live more, and give more. Until next week, my friends, I'm out.